Hi, welcome to my podcast, Becoming a Cut Flower Grower. I'm your host, Lydia, and I'm here to share my year of growing and selling cut flowers. I'll be giving you the lowdown on everything I'm doing and sharing all the highs and lows, the good times and the inevitable disasters, all in real time. Join me on my cut flower journey, starting right now. Okay, so in this episode, I'm going to get serious with you. We're going to talk about what is holding you back. Now, I'm making some assumptions here about you because I don't know anything about you. But I'm assuming that you've been drawn to this podcast because you are thinking about growing cut flowers. And I'm thinking perhaps you haven't started yet and you're actually just really interested in the process. Because I'm thinking if you're an expert at this, you're probably not going to be watching or listening to somebody nattering on about how they do it. So I'm thinking maybe you are somebody that has a dream of a different kind of life. You'd love to be working outdoors. Maybe you are chained to a desk or a computer, or you're doing a job that you just don't really want to do anymore. Maybe you've been doing it for years, maybe just a short period of time. And you think, I can't believe this is it. I can't believe I'm going to be doing this for the rest of my life. And you're dreaming of a different way of living where you're outside, you're doing something lovely, you're in touch with nature, you're doing something that's going to feed your soul instead of just feeding the machine. So those are the assumptions that I've made about you and why you might be interested in listening to a podcast like this. Now, I want to chat about some of the things that might be holding you back from getting started with this. And I have touched on some of these in a previous episode when I sort of talked about things you do need and things you don't need. It's one of the earlier ones. So let me elaborate on some of those today and see if any of them resonate with you, and perhaps together we can work through them. So I think the big three maybe are time, money, and confidence. But there are more. I realize that. Now, the time one, you might be thinking, I don't have any time to even set up a cut flower business. How on earth would I even do that? So you're going to have to think very critically about your life and think, where can I salvage some more time from in order to do this? Now, I'm not proposing for 1 minute that you just jack your job in and decide that you're going to be someone that grows cut flowers tomorrow, because apart from financial catastrophe and complete ruin, so you need to try and carve out some time from your existing life in order to get started with this project. And it might sound really glib for me to just say drop anything which isn't going to help you get to where you want, but it is kind of going to boil down to that. If you've got a really packed, really, really busy schedule and you're working and you're commuting and you've got family and pets and responsibilities and hobbies and activities and commitments that you already have, you're going to have to look really, really hard and see where you can save time, carve out some time for yourself, and perhaps outsource things to other people so that you can get on with what you need to focus on. Now, money's a really huge one. I get that. And the answer to that is really to start out very, very small. Don't be thinking for one moment that you can just buy a 20-acre plot and put loads of perennials on it, unless obviously you've got hundreds of thousands of pounds, then by all means go for it. But you're probably not going to be listening to me if that's the case. You can get started in a really small scale. You can grow in tubs. You can go and salvage the tubs from garden centres and wholesale plant nurseries. You don't even have to buy them. You can buy super cheap seed. You really can do this on a budget. And the third thing that I thought straight off the bat is confidence. And you're going to have to dig deep for this. You're going to have to remind yourself all the time of who you are. And when I say who you are, I don't mean what job you do. I don't mean what your strengths and weaknesses are. I mean who you are at your core. What sort of person are you? What do you stand for? What do you believe in? What are your values? Always useful to work those out. They're kind of like guiding principles for your life. And then stick these reminders of who you are all over your house, all over your car, all over your bathroom mirror. So every time you brush your teeth, you're reminded of them. Stick them by the loo roll holder. Stick them everywhere. You keep reading them. Say them out loud to yourself every single day. You have to believe in yourself. You have to back yourself. And I have mentioned on a previous episode about faking it until you make it. There's also an element of that. You have to have faith. So there are other things I know, like, oh, I don't have any knowledge. I don't have any experience. It is perfectly possible to set out on this journey without either of those two things. You can teach yourself. Get books out of the library if you're on a budget. Buy them from Amazon. Share them with other people. There are loads of resources online. There are lots of taster courses you can go on. There are video tutorials all over the place. You don't need experience to get started. I promise you, you can learn while you're doing it. Make mistakes. Absolutely. They're going to happen. You will make them. Don't overcomplicate things. You don't need a business plan. Keep it nice and simple. Focus on the key things that you have to do. And don't worry about all these things that you think you don't know about. Now, one of the key things is to just not ignore the opinions of others, but deal with them in such a way that they don't impact your opinion of yourself. You need to be your own backer, your own number one supporter, and you need to advocate for yourself. So you might want to keep things to yourself while you're first starting off until you're quite ready and quite comfortable to share them with other people and to have to perhaps answer questions or explain yourself. You don't have to do that off the bat. You don't have to reveal your hand until you are quite ready to do so. And I would also suggest that you find your tribe of people if you haven't already. These people don't have to be your family or your friends. They can be people who are like-minded, people who are on your wavelength, people who are vibing like you are, people who are into what you're into. And now that's different from like your best friends that you might have known for 40 years and you hang out together and, you know each other and your children and all the rest of it. I'm not talking about people like that. I'm talking about people who kind of just are on your wavelength and they get you. And if they're growing flowers or they're gardeners or they're in anything to do with this kind of industry, odds on they're going to be thinking like you. And they're really great people to have on your side and ask their opinion if you have to ask anybody's opinion. But ultimately, I think you make the decisions, back yourself. If they're wrong, you can sort it out. But just go with what you think because this is your business, your enterprise, and the buck stops with you. Now, you might be just downright fearful. You might actually just be afraid and just think, I'm afraid of rejection, of failure, of ridicule, of pity. I'm afraid of financial ruin. I'm afraid I'm just going to mess it up because I don't know what I'm doing. Have no fear. There is nothing to be afraid of. You've got to accept if you get into this that you're working with nature. And there are absolutely no guarantees with nature except change, really. Ask any gardener, and they'll have endless stories about the particular year that something bad happened. Like we had the beast from the east and every formium practically in the UK died, or the really cold spell we had, I think it was 2 winters ago, when like every hebe and every pittosporum in the UK died, and they all died in the wholesale nurseries and the garden centres as well. So we couldn't even get any here for years because of Brexit and all the importing stuff for plants, which is a whole other thing. I won't get into that. But people will just tell you that there are certain years when just it's a disaster. I mean, last year, tomatoes, not brilliant. It was incredibly wet. A few years ago, too hot for runner beans. So you're going to have these ups and downs, and you just have to be able to roll with it. But you've got to have faith. Like I would say to you that plants want to succeed, annuals especially, if you are growing them. And I highly recommend you do because they're just wonderful. Annuals have only got one shot at life and they really go for it. They're only alive for one season and that's it. So as soon as you open that seed packet, they are literally cheering you on. They're rooting for you, no pun intended. They're like, yes, this is going to be our year. It's going to be fabulous. It's going to be amazing. And they're just going to go for it. So already they're on your side. And nature is doing the hard work for you. You're merely facilitating it. And you're going to be brilliant at it. So here's my tip for how to get started this year if you are completely new to this. Depending on what your weather is like and where you're listening to this. But if you're in the UK, go and buy a packet of seeds and some compost and get hold of a big tub. Make sure it's got holes in the bottom. Sow those seeds and take that first step. And there'll be no looking back after that. And maybe it's a good time to remind ourselves why we'd even want to get into growing cut flowers in the first place. I think one of the best things I'm hoping to get out of this journey, because don't forget, I am a beginner in growing cut flowers professionally. I did mess about with it in 2024 with my so-called trial beds because I lost the confidence in myself to do anything else. Last year was a complete disaster. Now I look back at it. But one of the things that it has taught me is that I think this is going to be a really exciting enterprise. I am genuinely excited about what's going to happen this year, how things are going to work out. And to be able to work for yourself is, I think, well, for me, it's one of the most important things in life. I have been battling since I was a teenager to be independent, to not have a boss, to just control my own life and to manage my diary and make my week and my days run the way I want it to run. What I'm discovering is that diary management is actually quite tricky. And I mean, I've been doing this professionally as a PA for years and years and years. I'm actually very good at all of these organizational skills, but it's different when you start doing it for yourself. And sometimes when I'm running around trying to get from A to B and C to D and answer phone calls and emails, and my family look at me and they're like, aren't you supposed to be in charge of your diary? Like, how does it get to this? So that's definitely something to work on. But the point I'm getting at for you is this is a wonderful industry where you get to be in charge of yourself if you're going to get into doing this. You're working for yourself, you're the boss, you control the diary, and you're working with nature. And she will just have you twisting and turning in every different direction. There will be a new challenge. She's going to throw stuff at you. Every year is going to be different. Seasons are all changing for whatever reasons people believe in about why the climate is changing. It is definitely changing. There's no disputing that. Things are very different now. And also, flowers are absolutely magical creations. I'm always in awe every year when I sow seeds and then a couple of months later you have this incredible plant in front of you, like flowering away like mad. I mean, as I've already just mentioned about annuals, they're just literally straight out the packet. They're off. They want to go. They're not going to take much notice of you. They're just going to do their own thing because the imperative to sow their seeds so that future generations carry on will override everything else. They're super, super tough. But the magic of something coming from this tiny, tiny, tiny seed growing into a beautiful plant that then flowers, and the detail when you get up close and you really look at the structures, they're absolutely gorgeous. Just for me, it's like I'm just thrilled every time I grow something and this incredible plant just appears. I love it. It never gets boring. Um, Flowers are also such an integral part of our lives. Culturally, I mean, they're there when you're born. You're given flowers. You're given flowers for weddings, christenings, funerals. People give them to you for birthdays. We have them when we're having, special celebrations. They're such an intrinsic part of our lives. We have so much of our culture wrapped up in them. And I think the closer we get to those links, the closer we stay connected to what makes us who we are and what's wonderful about nature, I think the better. I guarantee you'll also meet some really interesting people when you're dealing with flowers and horticulture. There's a whole spectrum of people out there, and I've met some real characters doing it. It's fascinating. And horticulture is such a incredibly diverse industry anyway. You really don't know where you're going to end up with it. So I'd just get started at one place, like with the cut flowers, and see where it'll take you. I mean, interestingly enough, when I was in my, I don't know, late teens, I had a real phase of wanting to be a florist. And my parents said to me, "Oh, you won't be able to do that. You can't get up in the morning." Now, back in the day, we're talking, what, 20, 30 years ago, you went to flower markets to get your flowers. And you had to go around the markets at like 3 o'clock in the morning and then put everything in the back of a van, take it to your shop. And that's how things went. Nowadays, it's completely different. Florists are ordering online and stuff is being delivered for them. They don't even need to go anywhere. And you don't have to order at 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning either. And, if you're anywhere within 30 minutes of a massive airport, like I'm 30 minutes away from Heathrow, you've got multiple flights coming in every single day, full of cargo. You can have flowers shipped in. If you placed an order in the morning, I expect you could get them on a plane on the afternoon. So everything, well, we know everything's changing anyway, but even just in the industry, everything is changing. So for me, someone that wants to start out thinking I wanted to sell flowers, now I've ended up actually selling them to florists, which I think is quite interesting. So you never know where you're going to end up. And hopefully, also, this is a good one as well. Hopefully, we are future proofing ourselves because I can't see yet a way how AI is going to muscle in on growing flowers. I'm quite sure there are some people out there working out how to monetize it and spoil everything for the rest of us. But at the moment, AI seems to be staying away from actually physically getting its hands dirty. So I reckon we might have an industry that's going to survive the carnage that's going to be AI. And we can just get on growing something stunning, working with nature, meeting new people, running our own diaries, and having a gorgeous product to sell that people want to have at all of the key moments of their lives. As if you needed a reminder of why we should be doing this anyway. I mean, God, well, fingers crossed, it's going to be amazing. I will keep you posted because, as you know, I'm releasing an episode twice a week. So you're going to be following me through all of the highs and lows this year. So let's see what happens. Well, look, that's me for today. That's the end of another week. And I hope that you have a wonderful weekend, whatever you're getting up to, wherever you are. I might be getting a greenhouse this weekend, a secondhand one that has been donated to my cause. And I've got to go and dismantle it, like take all the glass down, take the structure to pieces, get it loaded up onto a van, driven over to the plot, and then get it sited. So I'm not sure if I'm actually going to do that over the weekend. I might have to get some slabs down first, but that is something that's hopefully going to be happening next week. So possibly before I speak to you again. So I will update you on that next week. And yeah, all the best. Have a wonderful weekend. Catch you next week.